Building on a budget is not easy. Most players start with cards they have in their collections already. This may be cards from random boosters, cards orphaned from Precons, or cards received from drafts or pre-releases. So how do you fold those cards into new commander decks to give them a longer life? Take a new legend and build a deck around them, or find an existing archetype that those new cards can fit into. Today's build your own Precon is Noble Nightmare, a $45 black and white deck built around making creatures, then sacrificing those creatures for repeated benefits. Our box legend is the new Ria Ivor Bane of Bladehold from Phyrexia All Will Be One. This 4-mana 3/4 Phyrexia Knight has Battle Cry, meaning when she attacks, all other attacking creatures get a little power boost. But before we attack, at the beginning of the combat phase, we choose a creature we control, and the next time they deal combat damage to a player, we prevent that damage. Then, we make a 1/1 artifact creature token Phyrexian Might that can't block and has Toxic 1 for each damage prevented this way. So it may seem counterintuitive to blank combat damage from your own creature, but the payoff are these adorable little monsters. Disposable 1/1 toxic creatures that can help boost any number of strategies, or just infect out opponents with poison counters. But at the heart of Noble Nightmare is making tokens and using tokens. Value in life or death. Let's see how we can make creatures we want getting through to make more tokens. Let's see how we can sacrifice tokens for benefits. Or, just in case, let's see how we can make our tokens a bit scarier. But first, if you like this or any of my brews, be sure to hit all those good buttons for more deck techs, deck building advice, and fun videos every week. First, let's take a look at how to take the most advantage of Ria Ivor. Her Battle Cry ability only triggers when she attacks, but it's only really good if we're going pretty wide already. While this makes her an active commander, details linked up top on what I mean by that, she can be pretty passive until we're already pretty well ahead. Her second ability, which triggers first, confusingly, doesn't require Ria herself to attack. You can pick any attacking creature to blank their combat damage to a player and make a bunch of mites. This encourages us to get more evasive creatures, which we can ensure will connect for value every turn, even if Ria herself can't get punchy. With no evasion or protection, we want to make sure she stays out of the fight until absolutely necessary. There are ways to grant Ria, or any of your creatures, evasion though. I've included Trailblazer's Boots and Prowler's Helm in the deck, which can basically make the equipped creature unblockable. This ensures we can get some kind of attacker through for some kind of damage and a bunch of mites. But speaking of mites, did you notice that they are artifact creatures? This means they boost effects like Cranial Plating and Nettle Cyst, two more equipment that we can put on evasive creatures to pump the amount of damage they deal, or would deal if we weren't going to prevent it. It can make for a cascade of just a few turns where we're doubling the number of mites we control every combat. That gets scary. Once we are scary, we'll definitely be walking into a board wipe though, and that's where the second half of our deck comes in. The archetype known as Aristocrats, named after creatures like Cartel Aristocrat, allows us to sacrifice our creatures which we want to trigger effects. What kind of effects? Ones that hurt opponents, of course. Cruel Celebrant, Zulaport Cutthroat, or Falconwrath Noble all trigger when a creature we control dies to drain opponents. This means that, even if we attack recklessly with our little mites, our opponents aren't spared the assault. This kind of value can come from creatures dying or being sacrificed. Smothering Abomination forces us to sacrifice a creature on our turn, but whenever you sacrifice a creature, you draw a card. That's a massive value engine when you can sacrifice creatures on demand to a Carrion Feeder, or a Viscera Seer, or a Woe Strider. Whoa! Now we can assemble an engine where we make lots of creatures, and if those creatures die, we can generate a lot of value too. It quickly goes off the rails. But don't think the disposable creatures just stop with Ria Ivor's mites. No, we've got a bunch of bodies that make us more bodies too. Doomed Traveler, Hunted Witness, and Crawling Chorus are all 1-mana bodies that we can throw away to be replaced by other creatures. Doomed Traveler giving us a flyer is great because that's exactly what we want to be suiting up later in the game to blank with Ria Ivor's ability to make us more bodies. Doomed Dissenter is a 2/2 that makes us a 2/2 zombie on Unaliving. Hallowed Spirit Keeper makes us a flyer for every creature card in our graveyard when they bite the dust, and Requiem Angel turns all of our creatures into Doomed Travelers, leaving behind their spirit when they shuffle off this mortal coil. In this color combination, we're also spoiled for removal. Targeted removal all-stars like Swords to Plowshares, Despark, and Mortify all make the cut in this Precon, allowing us to remove just about anything when we need to. But don't forget board wipes. Hour of Reckoning can be just about free thanks to the Convoke mechanic and leaves all of our tokens alive. Merciless Eviction exiles permanents of the type of our choice. Just be careful naming creatures because it won't trigger any of our dies triggers. And the new White Sun's Twilight is basically a better Martial Coup in this deck, gaining us life and making us more might tokens. But if we cast it for X equals 5 or more, we destroy all other creatures, leaving behind just our mites. Trust me, I've been blown out by this card, it's a heavy hitter. With all these dying triggers and all these tokens, it's no surprise that one of our pivot commanders in the deck is Teysa Karlov. This popular commander is a little on the expensive side, but she fits into the 99 because she does everything we want this deck to do. Also 4 mana, this Human Advisor is a 2/4 that says, if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers an additional time. And the word trigger has lost all meaning to me. Oh, but also creature tokens we control have Vigilance and Lifelink. She fits pretty seamlessly into our existing strategy, but as a pivot commander, she wants us to lean into a token-heavy strategy too, changing the deck to be more focused in either way. Aristocrats or token generation would do great with Teysa leading the deck as well. Now the important part to realize is just how passive Teysa is. She's not getting into combat anytime soon. Just sitting on the battlefield, we get the full effect from her, including having all of our effects like Vindictive Vampire now deal twice as much damage. Or Norn's Wellspring getting twice as many counters and allowing us to draw cards sooner. Or Transmigrant's Crown drawing us twice as many cards when the equipped creature dies. Teysa is what I call a value multiplier commander. She's not an enabler. She does nothing on her own or on an empty board. But you run her out once your engines are online, and she doubles the benefit you get from everything. Now, unlike some of our other build-your-own precons, we also have another potential pivot commander too, in Thalisse, Reverent Medium. If we want to go full token generation, then Thalisse should be our pivot. This 5-mana 3/4 human cleric says, at the beginning of each end step, not just yours, make X 1/1 flying white spirit creature tokens, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. Pretty simple. If you make tokens, you make more tokens. These ones, unlike mites or zombies, have flying and represent a real evasive threat. Since you can have them created on opponent's turns, she does trigger each end step. You could untap with a wall of flyers ready to attack. It's because of this emphasis on tokens that the deck by default includes cards like Might Overseer, giving your tokens a power boost and first strike on your turn, Intangible Virtue, so Teysa Karlov isn't the only thing giving your creature tokens vigilance, and the Background Inspiring Leader. As long as you control your commander, your tokens get an incredible +2/+2 benefit. If we're leaning more into this style of deck, then I definitely include more ways to create creature tokens on opponents' turns, like Prava of the Steel Legion, who also pumps your tokens on your turn. Or General's Enforcer, which acts as a way to protect your commander, and acts as graveyard removal, and makes tokens on opponents' turns. Or Treasure Generation, like Revel in Riches. Thalisse doesn't specify what kind of token needs to be generated, so making a treasure on an opponent's turn does the job. Same can be said for Monologue Tax and Smothering Tithe. If an opponent draws a card or casts spells, you get paid and make 1/1 flying bodies. And that brings us to the upgrade. If I were to add $50 to this list, where would I invest it? Well, I hate to say it, but unfortunately I won't be recommending Anointed Procession, because that's our full $50 gone with one card. Even the new Mondrak Glory Dominus, which does the same thing in doubling our tokens, is a prohibitive $35 right now. While these two will add some punch to your deck in doubling your token generation, they just are not affordable on a budget of any scale. Instead, we could invest just $8 in a Skull Clamp, a Commander All-Star. For just 1 mana, this allows us to kill off a token and draw 2 cards. On its own, almost entirely eliminating our need to worry about card advantage for the rest of the game. On that same note, the great Benny Brack's Zoologist is $15, but as long as we make a token each turn, we draw a card. Another great ongoing value engine. And remember, our mites are artifacts, so a Marionette Master, just an extra $1, is a good add too. Sacrificing a mite to dome an opponent is awesome, especially if the master is wearing a cranial plating or a nettle cyst for a huge power boost. Let's not skip some enchantments either. My favorite, Cathar's Crusade, can help us go tall with the volume of token generation by putting counters on everything. If you don't mind the math and maintenance, it's a great addition to any token deck. And Bastion of Remembrance is a rare aristocrat effect on an enchantment, ensuring that we can wrath and keep one of these effects around for the rest of the game. The other one of these effects is the Meat Hook Massacre, but it on its own is another $50, so stay away. Let me know what you think of the Noble Nightmares deck in the comments below, and be sure to let me know what you would add or change in this deck if you were putting it together yourself. Check out our other Build Your Own Precon decks, linked here, and remember, don't leave without hitting that subscribe button. As always folks, good luck and have fun!